Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Pet Danny says, good morning from a drenched South Rockdale. Indeed. It's showing up dribbling on us out here. Hey, what do you guys think what would you guys think if I was to create kind of a comedic animated character to do a weather forecast every morning? Sort of a mimetic meteorologist, a memeterologist, as it were. Let me know in the comments. We'll think about that. I was looking at some AI generated, some artificial intelligence animation generators yesterday, and I might be able to have fun with that. But let's do this. And good morning. Okay. Guys, I'm sorry I had a little trouble getting started this morning. I tweaked my neck yesterday, so I didn't sleep for crap last night, and I'm still fighting with it this morning. You know, choking down fistfuls of Ranger candy and trying to get my back lined back up so I could get some damn work done today. Shoo, buddy. So, good morning. It is Monday the 10th, and while I know that Pride Month ended 10 days ago, I wanted to wait to do this episode. I wanted to wait to talk about this particular topic until we started seeing some numbers come out. And it's funny. I read the reports over the weekend. I found the numbers and I looked at them, and now, surprise, surprise, Google, DuckDuckGo, it doesn't matter where I look, I'm having a hard time finding the articles that I wanted to talk about. So I do have some articles, but I'm not seeing the total numbers showing, but it was billions. So if you guys remember, we basically here at the BFM, and I might as well go ahead and preface the rest of this episode by saying we will be on Rumble tomorrow. Beginning of the month, we got yeeted for a couple weeks because of an episode that I did where I suggested that we should boycott everything. And if you'll recall, in that episode, what I said, excuse me, what I said was, it's difficult for conservatives, it's more difficult for conservatives to boycott brands than it is for leftists to boycott brands, because the whole DEI thing, DEI and ESG have so deeply infected all of the companies that it's very difficult as a conservative to just, I mean, you'd have to stop doing business with anybody. You know, I've got buddies that say, "Oh, I'll never watch a Tom Cruise film because of his weird involvement with that bizarre cult," or "I'll never watch this actor's film because of the things she said at the Golden Globes Award." And hey, guys, if I were to boycott all entertainment, every actor that I didn't agree with, I'd run slap the hell out of entertainment. I mean, instantaneously. So here we are at the end of the month, and Legion says it's sadly our generation of workers at these companies that solidify the rot. That is, no shit. I mean, coming up in the 90s, right? I was a high school student in the 90s. And I had one moment of clarity that I will never forget. When we first moved from New England to Georgia, I had gotten in the habit back then of wearing a ball cap all the time. And I would wear it forward most of the time, and then when I got into the classroom, I would flip it around backwards so the bill didn't get in my way and I could see the board. But I'd gotten in the habit of wearing a ball cap all the time. And we moved down to the South. There's a rule at the high school where Heritage High School. You may remember it from exactly 1 month after the Columbine shooting when we got shot up. That was my senior year of high school. But I was pretty quickly informed by the principal that we couldn't wear hats in the building, right? And as he's explaining this to me, we're in like the common area right in front of the principal's office, and I'm looking around. He said, "Oh, hey, you can't wear hats in the building here. That's against the rules here, son." And I looked at him and I looked around and I said, "I see 5 dudes wearing hats. What's the difference?" And he didn't just dismiss my comment. He said, "Oh, they're black. Those," and because what they were wearing were like the Rastafarian tam or the net cap thing, one of those, not a baseball hat. And he said, "Oh, well, they're black. It's a cultural thing for them." And I looked at him, I said, "This is a Braves baseball hat. How the fuck is this not cultural for a white boy?" "Well, that's different. I'm going to need you to explain to me how." I wish I were a little smarter then. That should have been a lawsuit. I should have filed a massive lawsuit against Heritage High School, the city of Conyers, of Rockdale County, for racial discrimination at that point. But let's be real, I'm a white guy. And as psychotic as the idea is that white people can't be racist, that only white people can be racist, the fact is, the most obvious form of systemic racism, the only defensible argument that systemic racism exists, is that things like that happen. See, you might be able to say that there are people who are racist against black people. But what you cannot say with evidence to support and not be lying is that white people have similar recourse when they are victims of racism. If any other than white person, black, Hispanic, Indian, whatever, with a dot or a feather, it doesn't matter. If anything other than white male cries racism, then yeah, automatically, almost automatically, they win. You go into a courtroom and say, they fired me because I'm black. And then the company's defense attorney comes in and says, now hold on, Your Honor. This black man who says that we fired him because he was black was consistently half an hour to an hour late for work and was caught stealing money out of the cash register and failed his drug test. And that's why we fired him. It's all documented here. Oh, well, that may be, but those are cultural things for him. And that's not just a racist joke that I'm making, although I hope you enjoyed that one. But I'm reminded in this particular conversation, and this has gone way off the topic that I actually wanted to talk about. I'll come back to it in a minute. Cameron and I went, and we've talked about this on the show before. Cameron and I, one of the first kind of large-ish live events that we filmed as a contract, and just to give you an idea, this is one where they never actually paid the bill. They paid the initial deposit and then decided that they didn't want to pay for the rest of what they owed on the invoice. It was an event that was, in theory, for at-risk young black men, specifically black men who were at risk. And by at risk, what they meant was that there was a high probability that these particular young men would become involved in drugs or gang activity, et cetera, et cetera. At this event, they had several speakers. There was preachers that spoke. There were some rap artists that spoke. There were some police officers that spoke. And not just foot soldier grunt patrolmen, detectives. Of course, all black men relating their experiences and their life experiences. And of course, the preachers' stories were all about how they got into drugs and they got involved in gangs and spent time in jail and then went on the road to recovery. And there's a lot of hopefulness there. It's like, okay, good for you. You did wrong and you came back. But the thing that really stuck to me was they didn't tell their story as if it was a cautionary tale. Don't get involved. Don't make bad decisions. Don't do drugs. Don't this, that, and the other thing. No, they all operated under the baseline assumption that recreational felonious activity, like assaulting people with knives, trafficking drugs, mugging people as part of a gang initiation, stealing cars to joyride and then damaging those expensive cars and leaving them where you found them. They talked about these activities like, oh, these are just the normal things that young teenage boys do. And like, there are stereotypes that one is aware of, and can even make a good argument that stereotypes are never themselves without origin, right? There's something that the stereotype is based on. But this idea of recreational felonious activity as just the normal course of young male adulthood was entirely novel to me, and I think it was entirely novel to Cameron as well. Like I said, we've talked about it on the show before. The overwhelming, just shocking quality of the conversations. These men operated under the assumption and spoke to these boys operating under the assumption that they were going to do the crimes, that was a given, and that it should be expected. So rather than a cautionary tale, don't do the stupid shit and end up in jail, it was, hey, look at me. You can do all the stupid shit, go to jail, and then come back out and have a successful career as a preacher or a police officer or a rap artist. And I don't pick, I'm not picking rap artists in this case because it's a solid racial stereotype, good comedy, whatever. Literally, there were a couple of rap artists who claimed to be making all their money doing it. I can't even remember their names. They were underground unattached artists, independent artists. They looked, they dressed the part. They looked like they were making money, but, for branding purposes, that could always be a lie. So let me get back to my original topic before Legion got me offsides with the thing. And well, Legion says, I still take my hat off indoors, hardwired etiquette, just like calling seniors sir and ma'am. Yes, I'm with you on that. That's how I am now. But I did go to my first couple years of high school in New England, and it's the frozen north. They've had their respect amputated by frostbite. So let me pull back around to the original topic. So the beginning of the month, like I started, we got thrown off the YouTubes for a little while because I did an episode called Boycott Everything. And in that episode, I suggested it's difficult for conservatives to boycott, et cetera, like I was saying, because of the extent to which DIE and ESR or ESG has just completely infected most major companies, right? If I had to boycott every actor that said something stupid, I'd run out of entertainment. I wouldn't be able to watch a damn thing on television, which I'm less and less concerned about, please believe. But I suggested that we should boycott everything to the greatest extent possible, and even go so far as to say, for Pride Month, I am going to make it a point, personally, to save money. I'm not just going to go out of my way to not shop at certain brands. I'm going to go out of my way to just not buy anything that I don't need. Right? I'm just going to not spend money. If my sweet tooth starts to itch, I'm just going to say, I'm good. Have a glass of water, drink a cup of black coffee, and just move on. I don't need a pack of Reese's Pieces or a candy bar or whatever. Just skip it for the whole month. Personally, I didn't do perfect at it, but I did pretty good. And I did save some money on that, which I then spent on a front end alignment and a couple new tires and a fucking brake job. But if I hadn't had to rebuild my damn truck, I'd have enjoyed a tasty little bump in the savings account, sure. But more importantly, Legion says that's why my purchases during Pride were exclusively nicotine and alcohol. See, I didn't even drink. I don't think I had any alcohol during Pride Month. I may have had one beer somewhere in there, but nope. Now, that's going to change this upcoming weekend. I am, about once every other year or three, I let myself get shit-faced with the boys. And that's going to be this Friday. I'm looking forward to it, gentlemen. But what we've seen is the boycotts through Pride Month were incredibly effective. So effective. So here's the full list of companies facing boycotts for Pride Month. This is from Newsweek. Blather. Bud Light. In April, Bud Light and Anheuser-Busch faced a wave of backlash and calls to boycott after the beer brand sent a one-off commemorative can to transgender influencer and activist Dylan Mulvaney, who then shared it on his social media. Oh, Legion, thank you for reminding me. Legion just reminded me about the thing with... Okay. Sound check. And I know I wrote a note about this the other day, but sound check article audio. I think I know what the problem is, and I think I can fix it, but I'm not going to try to do it while we're live. Okay. Goldplum, I can't take credit for the Anheuser-Busch joke. That's a Michael Knowles that I'm stealing. So, Danny says, so far all the boycotts are on things I don't use. For the most part, I have a similar complaint about the boycotts, and hold on to that. So Target got hit bad. Kohl's, North Face. Okay, I'll say this about North Face, and nobody should have been surprised by North Face. North Face is kind of like Bud Light. If you were a consumer for that product, you were probably already, shall we say, effeminated. PetSmart. It says this is the full list. I disagree. There were several more brands that suffered from it, but it's also the case, apparently, from some reporting, that during Pride Month, and this is, what the hell? Oh, it's just got that weird. It's got that weird cookie stuff before the article. So any LGBTQ protests starting brands like Target Corp and Bud Light have cast a broader chill across corporate America. For the first time in years, company mentions of Pride Month and other LGBTQ terms were on the decline in regulatory filings and earnings calls, a Bloomberg News analysis found. In regulatory filings, if mention of LGBT stuff shows up in your regulatory filings, let me be clear about this, right? This is something that is actually worth note. If you are a company and LGBT appears in your regulatory and compliance filings, you are committing a crime. That is not an opinion. Or no, let me rephrase that. That is an opinion. Let me clarify. What I meant to say is that is not my opinion. Yes, Uncle Steve, I said Anheuser-Busch. That is the opinion of the court. Now, the SCOTUS decision that came down recently on affirmative action is specifically relevant to colleges and their obviously and transparently racist practices on college admissions and placements. But that is going to translate across the board. Because what we have seen, like, look at your diversity, equity, and inclusion companies, or over the last couple of months, there have been huge exoduses from diversity, inclusion, and equity departments at major companies. They're divesting from DIE. The larger companies are being forced to divest from the cult of DIE. Now, they're also getting rid of ESG, the environmental, social, and governance scores. I advise extremely cautious hopefulness when looking at that going on, because likely it will be the case that those things aren't going to just go away. They're going to be rebranded. They're going to just try again. And Danny, there you go. There's the link for the Buy Me a Coffee right there in the chat, and I'll go ahead and drop it over here for you guys watching on Rumble. There's the link to the Buy Me a Coffee. So, but there is currently divestment from DIE and ESG. Again, what you'll probably see is that it gets rebranded and they call it something else. But the only way that that LGBT reference comes in regulatory filings and earnings calls is if your company is making it a point to put in specialized policies on their behalf. Right now, it would be the case that if they had explicit policies against LGBT individuals, that would also be criminal activity under the law, right? I am not opining here over the moral qualifications of having policies against LGBT. I'm explicitly speaking about the law. If you had a policy preventing LGBT, if you had something like a don't ask, don't tell policy at your corporate level as part of your company regulatory stance, that would absolutely be actionable under the law. And you could find yourself destroyed in civil litigation even after a long, expensive, and destructive criminal proceeding against your company. The same is true if there is pro-LGBT in your company. Because the fact of the matter is that if you have pro-LGBT as part of your company, that is not different legally than being a company that is overtly white exclusion, white only. If your company says we only hire white men as a matter of policy, that would be a crime. If your company says we hire white men primarily by preference, that would be a crime. The same is true if you replace white man with anything else. Now, the court will not treat it that way. The culture will not treat it that way, and the media will not treat it that way. The court, the culture, and the media will treat it as if that statement, including any category other than white man, straight white man especially, as being a moral good. If you offer preferential treatment to any other category, then culturally, legally, you will be treated, hey, thanks, Dan. Dan bought me a coffee. I will enjoy that, and I appreciate the hell out of you. But if you treat any other group in that way, then you get treated with moral deference, as if you've done something especially good. That's intolerable. That is just another example of living in a two-tier justice system. Now, that particular line of thought and conversation could be a whole nother episode and just might have to be. So it is now 8 o'clock. I'm going to have to wrap this up and get on out the door. Thanks for watching this morning, guys. Thanks, Dan, for the cup of coffee. I appreciate the hell out of that. And I love you, and I will see you tomorrow.